All right, welcome back to the Man Cave. I'm your host, Black Iris. Good to see you all. I want to give a little shout out to the latest subscriber, Mr. Sir Kibble Fox Dragon. I like that one. That's nice. Um, I always appreciate everyone that tunes in. I appreciate everyone that donates, and I also appreciate anyone that subscribes to my channel. I want to grow, and I want to grow outside of YouTube because it's just not the place to be. I want to grow my own platform so I can put all the great shows for all you guys to watch. So, but enough about that. We're going to talk about a little bit about Passport Bros. We haven't talked about that in a while. This guy's going to give us a little bit of an insight of what he thinks and feels about Passport Bros and even some myths. So let's get started and let's get this show rolling, shall we?
I'm Dr. Orion Taraban, and this is Psych Hacks, Better Living Through Psychology. And the topic of today's short talk is Passport Bros and international dating. So this is a topic that has come up frequently in the comments of several of my videos, and it's a topic that I've been requested to discuss by many people over the last several months. If you're unfamiliar with the subject, Passport Bros is the collective term for a movement among Western and specifically American men who are increasingly pursuing mating and dating opportunities abroad. These are guys who are flying to places like South America and Southeast Asia and the Middle East in order to access sexual opportunities that they argue aren't available in their home country. And I'm going to respond to this phenomenon through the lens of my recent experiences spending a month in the country of Japan. Now, I'm not very knowledgeable about this phenomenon, but to be honest, there was always something about the Passport Bros movement that felt a little sleazy and pathetic. Without really examining it, my perspective was similar to the prevailing attitude, which was something like this movement was for guys who were too low status or unattractive to beat out their intrasexual competition here. They couldn't get laid in the States, so they basically engage in geo-arbitrage to leverage a relative advantage that wouldn't exist in their home country. My attitude...
Now, I want you to understand something, and then no disrespect to him, but the honest truth is that's how most people see things. We always say don't judge a book by its cover, but we do the complete opposite. Sometimes it's for defense mechanisms, sometimes it's for something else. The fact of the matter is, a lot of people judged it without questioning it, without asking questions. And even when they asked questions, the questions always came off as condescending, which is why a lot of these men just refused. They were like, engage with them. The honest truth is, men sort of don't have the competitional status to basically go up against these women because what you're asking for is not as great as it used to be many years ago. Women have changed since then. So now you have these women who are out here completely different than how they used to be. And now you're going out and saying, I am the best version of myself, but still not wanted, but I still have to be more for a group of women who basically are the worst of the worst when it comes down to Americanized women. So I said, there are way more attractive women overseas. Now, why would this always be a problem? Because people don't like change. Change is scary. And if you're a person or a group of people who should be always accepting, people will look at you and say, well, why are you leaving? This is not you. You're supposed to just take it. So these group of women were allowed to just be bottom of the barrel, bottom of the barrel, bottom of the barrel. And here we are. Now women don't seem to understand that men have choices because men never exercise their choices. And worse yet, they never spoke about their choices. So that also became a problem why people thought this. They're just like, women can leave and go to another country, get laid, do whatever, and it's totally fine because we see that as normal. But here, it's just like, but women are like the best. Here, we're in a country, and that's that stigma where people think that we live in the best country in the world. We don't. We have the best opportunities, yes, but it's not the greatest country. The strongest country, yes, but not the greatest country of all time. That's people who live in that little mindset that, well, we have the greatest everything, so why would you go here?
It was something like only guys who couldn't get what they want from women here would need to uproot their whole lives and travel halfway around the world, which kind of made these men out to be conniving beta males. That was my attitude before spending a month in Japan. That is no longer my attitude now.
And I want you to understand something. This is why I say you should probably learn before you speak. never say something just by your emotions or your feelings. You went by emotions and basically thought, well, these guys are losers. Like, why couldn't you just get it here? And it's like, I look at things from all sides. I don't just say it from my side. I look at it from all sides. So therefore, I don't try to pretend like I know something that I don't know or jump into it like, oh, well, these guys are like this, because I think so, but not because I know so. And you don't want to be that person who thinks that you know what you're talking about, but you really don't. Find out about it. Do some research about it. Live the life if you really care. But sometimes it's good that you need this. Sometimes you need to experience the life and see that things are different. Things aren't as great as I thought it was.
Having spent a month in that country, I think I better understand where this movement might be coming from. And I definitely don't think it's just for loser men who can't get laid in America. Allow me to explain. From the perspective of my interests and preferences, the quality of the women in Japan was significantly superior to the quality of the women in the Bay Area. Like, not by a little, by orders of magnitude. Let me break down some of the various factors that go into that statement. First of all, the women in Japan are slender and physically healthy. I spent a month in some of the largest cities in the world, and I must have seen 10 overweight women in that entire time, half of whom were little old ladies. And these overweight women weren't morbidly obese. They were like plump, maybe 20 or 30 pounds overweight max. Most Western women literally couldn't buy clothes in Japan. The vast majority of Japanese women are slender and physically fit, which is appealing because it's not only attractive, but it indicates a compatible value as well.
Yeah. And a lot of women here, we've been grooming them to believing that you can be beautiful in any shape, which comes with a lot of problems. So a lot of insecurities are when women were always petite and dish in shape. Women who didn't want to lose the weight or be in shape, who rejected it, got upset because, well, beauty comes in all shapes and sizes. That's a slogan. Most men desire a petite, feminine woman. They just don't tell you. They'll accept you because they don't have a choice. You chose to stay that size because it's easier. Men chose to date you because it's easier than just telling you, well, I need a woman like this, especially when you shame a man for having standards. So when you go to other countries and see how women are built, I can understand why women are angry and upset. And you can't tell me they're not. You have thousands of videos of women shaming the passport bros, shaming the women, saying all this stuff by their feelings that has no background or backing that claims that what they're saying is true.
Like, I want people who care about their health. Second, these women are feminine. They wear dresses and heels and makeup. They tend to dress more conservatively than Western women. No tight clothes, no showing a lot of skin.
And that's another reason why a lot of countries shame other cultures like the Japanese, the Middle East, who are modern and keep their sexuality closed because that's something to only be shared with your spouse. So a lot of these people, a lot of these women in the United States, they're shaming them because they want the freedom to show off their bodies. And like, well, they shouldn't be able to do that because we show off our bodies. Why can't you let them? Well, that's just patriarchy. No, it's just that women value their bodies more than the American women here. Go to New York. How many men have dated women who wear sneakers and tight jeans? I'm not saying that tight jeans don't look good, but the women in other countries, they get dressed up to look feminine. You dress however you want here, and you're wearing yoga pants with your stomach all hanging out, and that's supposed to be attractive because there's no competition because everyone is pretty much going down the same route. So the men who are at the bottom of the barrel, unfortunately, have to settle for that type of woman. And she knows it because men go after her not because they really want to, but because they don't really have a choice.
The feminine ideal there seems to be like softly elegant, flowing and modest and dignified. And these aren't 1950s housewives. These are women who, for the most part, are working professionals. They have modern ideas. They are educated and accomplished, but they haven't thrown out more traditional conceptualizations of female beauty.
And that's the other thing. You can go to other countries where women work just as hard as men, but work harder than women here. They don't work as much as men here, but work more than women over here. And they still keep their femininity. They still act like a woman. Here, they complain about working crazy hours and it's, this struggle out here and I don't need no man nonsense, or I don't need no man. I can pay my own bills, but you complain when the man comes to you and says 50-50 because you're talking about how you don't need the man, but you want him. And then you're like, well, these men want to go 50-50. Those are weak men. Well, you're an idiot for bringing up your finance in the first place. Are you putting money into the house? No? Okay, then. So 50-50. You idiot. Shut up. But you went on social media. You start talking about how good your life is because you pretend like this is the first time you ever made money in the history of mankind. So now you want to complain that men treat you fairly like you wanted to be treated for several decades.
This is not something you can easily find in the West anymore. And you can't find it at all in the Bay Area, at all. And I find feminine women very attractive. It resonates with me and inspires me to be even more masculine. Now, before I go any further, if you're liking what you're hearing, please consider sending this episode to someone who might benefit from its message, because it's word of mouth referrals like this that really help to make the channel grow. You can also hit the thanks button and tip me in proportion to the value you feel you derive from this episode. It's your donations that make all this possible. I don't do the product placements and the corporate sponsorships of other channels of this size. And trust me, I get like 50 different offers a day. This helps me stay independent, and it helps me to do what I need to do to keep the channel going. So thank you very much for your support. All right. Third, the women in Japan are extremely respectful. Every woman I interacted with there was extremely warm and friendly. They were receptive to conversation, and they seemed to enjoy, or at least very effectively pretended to enjoy, speaking with me. Even more, they were solicitous about my feelings and seemed concerned that I should enjoy the interaction as well. I didn't experience a single indifferent or disrespectful word, tone, or glance.
I want you to understand something, even with my wife. The funny thing about it is when I first met her, and it was so funny. I remember I was talking to one of my friends I was working with, and he said the same thing. He didn't know how to respond to it. So she's from DR. Basically, when we started meeting and talking to each other, it was a conversation back and forth, and we would text and blah, blah, blah. The one of us talk all day long. And the funny thing about it is she says something, and I didn't know how to respond to it. She would say, "Did you eat something for dinner?" And I said, what? I'm thinking she's saying it like she's going to start asking me for money. No, what she's asking me is that she's concerned and say, "Did you eat something for dinner?" And I'm like, "Yeah, of course I ate for dinner. Yeah, I did." "Oh, okay, good." She was concerned to make sure that I actually ate. Like she was looking out for my well-being. And even my partner, when I was talking to him, we were in the ambulance, and he's just like, he kind of responded in an aggressive tone because like, I'm an adult. Of course I can do these things. And I let him finish, and I was just like, yeah, dude, because she cares about you. They care to make sure that their man who they want has eaten. Not that she's looking for money. So like, oh, I'm hungry and I need to get some money. Can you give me some money to get some food for my... No, she really genuinely cared about your health and well-being. Can you get a woman in the United States to do that? A very small group of them will actually still do that. Too many of them don't have the luxury or care to do so.
From a woman in a month. This made approaching and talking to women in Japan a much less fraught experience than it is in the US. The women I spoke to seemed to take pleasure in the attention and in the dialogue. Nothing about the interaction indicated that they were annoyed or offended that I was interested in talking to them. Fourth, while a kind of chivalry exists in Japan, it's an inverted version of what we have here. In Japan, men come first. Women come second. It's difficult to appreciate how deeply the romantic ideology permeates our manners until you go to a completely different culture. For instance, one day I was walking towards the main entrance of a building at pretty much the same time as a woman. My natural instinct was to get there first and hold the door open for her. However, when I did so, she refused to walk through it, making a show of great embarrassment. And I later realized that in that culture, it would have been embarrassing for her if I had allowed myself to disrespect myself in that way for her sake.
Yeah, see, and this is why American women will never understand that. They'll look at that as just being the negative and mean and horrible, and how could you do that? But that's their culture. It's not a disrespect either way. It's kind of like in the Muslim culture, you don't shake the hands of a woman. That's not your woman. Now here, it's just like, oh, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with my hands? And instead of asking, you get upset. But if someone were to explain to you, you kind of would understand, and you either fall into one or two categories. Either one, you understand and you respect it, or two, you won't understand it and get more aggressive because they should conform to your way of thinking.
Another example. Many years ago, I spent some weeks in Japan studying Buto dance in an immersive program. The first night of the program, at the General Assembly, we heard a long speech on how the organizers miscalculated the number of futons they needed for the students. Apparently, there would not be enough beds for everyone, so the women would have to sleep on the bare floor without cushions or sheets until the problem was rectified. Now, there were a couple other Westerners in the audience, and I remember we were just looking at each other in disbelief. To say we were shocked would not be an understatement. The idea that the women were going to sleep on the ground while the men were going to sleep in the beds felt completely unnatural to us.
And this is why I say, all men, if you want to be passport bros or just travel in general, you should go and see your surroundings, see how other cultures work. Not to say if they're better or not, just to get a little bit of experience of seeing how the world is. The world outside of the United States is beautiful. Don't let these people tell you that it's not. You just have to be smart in where you go. That's it. And I'll do a video on that with these women who were going to other countries and then claiming that they had experienced something racist and didn't understand that, well, while you're telling passport bros to know the place you're traveling, they did the complete opposite. But anyway, the fact of the matter is you want to see the world. I love to see the world, travel the world, see it through my perspective with my own eyes, because then you get the full experience of what you're dealing with and how things are completely different everywhere else. And it broadens your horizon so that you can understand how people are in this world.
However, our way of doing things is just as unnatural to Japanese sensibilities. That's starting to change more and more as Western ideologies continue to infiltrate Japanese society. But the important thing here is to understand that a lot of what many people believe to be the natural dynamic between men and women is really very culturally bounded and culturally specific. And to be honest, it felt good to be honored for being a man. Like, it's not a bad thing to be a man in Japan. In fact, it seems to come with some privileges that are more commensurate to the responsibilities that men generally take on.
All right, I'm going to stop it here. This video is going a little bit longer than I was hoping for, but I will leave this link in the description box. But just to end it, I want to tell you, like, you have to understand, like, the world is different everywhere else. And it will feel weird because it's funny, I would go to another country and hold a door for somebody because that's what I want to do as a man. I know never to do it here because women don't respect it. Not that all women don't respect it. The quiet ones will respect it, but be upset because you didn't do it, while the other ones will be disrespected because you did it. This country has destroyed the bond between men and women so badly that we don't understand how to treat each other with any type of respect. And then you go to other countries and you start to realize, wow, people are actually different here. They actually respect when you hold a door for them. It's like, yes, unfortunately, that's how it is, because this country has corrupted so many people to thinking that this is the best way to go at it, that we don't know how to deal with it. So now we're going into it and we're saying, well, what do we do now? Well, it's no choice. It's going down that route. There's no way to go back. People are corrupt, and it's going to take a long time to fix the corruption before things get better. But until then, Men should just go elsewhere and go to other countries, because you know what? You'll have a better time going to those countries than staying here and dealing with the nonsense that is your modern day woman with a modernized mindset, but still wants you to be traditional. So anyway, I'm going to say good night. Have a good night, everyone. And I'm going to leave the link in the description box. He's got some really good videos. So tune in, check it out. And until then, the man cave is always open.